For Delaware Valley children and adults, the wealth of science information in 321 Contact is made possible by a grant from Marine Midland Bank, Delaware.
How many channels can we get here?
Oh, 12 on regular VHF, and maybe up to 70 someday on UHF.
That's a lot of television all coming at you.
Yeah, but what I'd like is some way to come back at it.
You want to talk back to TV?
Everybody gets that urge sometime.
No, it's more of a feeling I have about what's the best way of communicating. The best way is back and forth, communicating both ways, not just one way. Here, all we can do is change the channel.
3,
Hey, our favorite program.
1. Contact is the secret, it's the moment when everything happens. Contact is the answer, it's the reason why everything happens. Contact. Let's make contact. 3, 2, 1. Contact.
Do you know that we've even reached a point now where you, the TV audience, are soon going to be able to talk right back at me here on the other end of the TV camera, right on the television set? Can you believe that such a thing is possible? What would you say then?
Listen, you're not a scientist. You're an actor. We want scientists. We want engineers. We want technicians. Not actors. Not people like you. And especially not actors. You're just
What?
not funny, Wallace.
Just repeat what you said. What did you say?
We want scientists. We want
Listen,
engineers.
I heard
Not
that.
actors. Not people like you.
I don't have to take that.
Communication. You want to talk about two-way communication, Lise? Okay, but first, all I want to know is, where were you guys when all I was trying to do was to get through to somebody, one way or another?
You didn't keep in touch with us.
No gas, all alone for 3 whole days and nights, living off the land.
Trini, what we had was a big lack of communication.
Oh! Well, wow, I sure tried. I waved. I wrote. I hugged SOS. You've heard of SOS?
Never heard a beep here.
I also blinked SOS.
How were we supposed to see?
You or somebody. I tried everything. I made a signal mirror. I put up a signal kite. I set off smoke bombs. Finally, no thanks to you guys, I got lucky.
We were worried, Tree. Really?
Who do you think sent out the blimp?
Well, all I know is that as a message center, that car's had it, and so have you guys.
You got us all wrong, Trini.
Yeah.
You gotta somehow get the message to somebody who can receive it.
Yeah? Well, I took care of my end.
Yeah, but that's only half of it. You see, look, the message isn't going anywhere. The other half is that the message has to reach somebody.
Okay, but you guys have to have some better way than this to get your messages through.
Not to worry.
Yeah, lots of ways.
Hand signals, like in baseball. All right.
9,000 miles behind the pitch.
Ain't nothing to it but to do it. What's that?
Hey, man, you're not supposed to know what's that.
No, I want to know what he's throwing so I can hit the ball, all right?
Oh, they're supposed to mean curveball. And 90% of the pitchers, they use number 1 for fastball.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 for curveball. That means the ball's gonna break down.
Right.
Number 3, slider. Supposed to break to the side a little bit.
Right.
Got 4, or wiggle. That means change, change speed.
If you've got a guy out there on second base, can he see your signals and then steal your signals?
Yeah. That's why you gotta make sure to get together with the pitcher and change the sign. Like, we can say, example, when we got man in second, we gotta use second sign.
What do you mean by that?
Well, like if if I want you to throw me a fastball, and then I go 2, 1, 3, 4, because 1 means a fastball, and the second sign is a fastball.
So, for instance, if he was going to throw a curveball, he could go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And if he knows it's the second signal, then the other signals don't make any difference. I got your number, Jackson. Just put it here, and everything will be fine.
All right, we'll see then.
All right?
All right, here it comes.
Oh. Piece of cake. That was a piece of cake.
Yeah, sure. Only what happens when you run out of fingers? I can sign right through the whole alphabet.
We use a simple alphabet, just like I'm using now.
Can you show me the alphabet?
Fine, it's very easy.
Let's see.
First you keep your palm out, and for A, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. If you can do that fast, you have a good future ahead of you.
I get a job here.
B, A, B, C, D, E, beautiful, F, G, H,
H,
I, J,
J,
K,
K,
L,
L,
M,
M.
N, O. No, O, make
Oh,
a perfect
no.
O like
O.
that. O,
O,
P,
P,
Q,
Q.
R,
Makes a difference.
F, T, U, V, W, X,
Curl the finger.
Y, Z,
Z.
And then there are simple signs like you and me, my, yours. Many signs are very natural, like car, aeroplane, helicopter.
What's that?
Well, that's a sign for the word and.
Oh, and.
You and me. Try that.
You and me?
Sweetheart.
You and me? You and
love
me?
birds talking together.
How you do that? Oh.
Okay. I'll spell your name just once.
Okay.
Fast.
Fast way. L-I-S-A.
Beautiful. But don't forget that sign language is in your face to show your mood, too. Just like if you feel sick, you don't say, I feel sick. You say, I feel sick. And if you're angry, you show you're angry. I'm very angry.
Right.
And then if you get a headache, you say, I have a headache. You say, I have a headache. A lot of signs are in your face.
Not just us either. Lots of animals sign to each other.
How many ways to say I love you are there underneath the sun? We could take a day to count them and not think of everyone.
Insects, too, don't forget.
You know, he's bugs on bugs lately.
You know, if I wanted really good directions from somebody, do you know who I'd ask? A bee.
Hey, Mark, this is the hive entrance where the bees leave and return from the field with their food.
Now, most of these bees here are the older workers?
That's right. The workers bring in all the food, the nectar and pollen. Drones and queens don't do any work at all.
And how old are these guys now?
These are from 3 to 6 weeks old. Generally, they're burnt out by the end of 6 weeks.
I also see that some of the bees have some yellow stuff on their legs. What's that?
Yeah, that's pollen. That's the protein that they eat. They go out and forage that from flowers and carry it back to the hive.
Oh, yeah, and there's one with some numbers on it, too. What's that?
Yeah, we number usually about 100 bees in the hive so we can tell individuals apart. We can follow one of these bees out to the feeder we have set up. This is the feeder that we've set out for our bees from our hive to forage at. We set it out so that we know what distance and what direction they're going.
Doesn't look much like a flower to me, but they seem to be happy with it. And what do you have inside of the bottle?
That's sugar water, just regular sugar mixed with water. It's a lot more concentrated than most nectar that they would get from flowers. About 5 times as concentrated. In order to know which bee is which, as you can see, they all look almost identical. We put these little numbers on there. When they're feeding, they concentrate very much on feeding, so they don't notice when you poke around with it. I have some numbers here. I just take a little bit of glue, put a little glue on the end of this stick, touch it to the bee very gently, and if you do it gently enough, they won't fly away. Then take another stick, moisten the end, pick up the number, and glue it to the bee's back. And they get used to it fairly quickly, and then just spend the rest of their lives with their little number on their back.
Have you ever been stung doing that?
No.
No?
No. When they're at a feeder station, they're very, very friendly. You could even reach in and touch them. There you go. See?
How long will they feed here?
Oh, they'll only stay here about 30 seconds, perhaps as long as a minute, and they'll fill up completely with the sugar water, and then they'll head straight back to the hive.
Why do they do that?
Well, they want to take the food that they've got here back to the hive, leave it there, and come back for more. And while they're back at the hive, they'll tell the other bees where the food is so they can come out and get some too.
How?
Well, let's go see. Okay. Well, here are some of the bees that were out at the feeder coming back into the hive to bring back the food and tell the other bees where to go to find it.
Now, how are they going to tell the other bees?
Well, let's see. Well, you were out at the feeder. How would you describe how to get there?
Well, you go across the field and take a right at the... I don't think I can tell you.
It's difficult, but the way the bees do it is to perform a little dance, which the other bees watch. And as a matter of fact, here's one right here. If you look a little closer, you can see that the bee is waggling her entire body as she cuts up here to the left, and then she turns around, follows the same line over again. See that? And you'll see that there are other bees which are following the dance, and they're getting the information out of the dance to tell which way to go to get to the food source.
Now, how does that wiggling tell the rest of the bees where the food source is?
There are 2 things that the bee has to communicate to the other bees. One of them is the direction to go in, and the other is how far to go. So you'll see that the bee, when she does this little waggle run, she'll do it time after time in the same direction. And that direction tells the other bees the direction to fly in. And in this case, you can see the bees are dancing around, say 45 degrees or so to the left. And so the bees that are watching the dance will go out, and they see the sun, and they'll fly just that amount to the left of the sun. Okay, so that tells them which direction to go in. And the way they tell how far to go is by counting the number of times that the bees waggle their abdomen back and forth. See? In this race of honeybees, each waggle corresponds to about 25 yards. So they'll count, I guess in this case, say 16 waggles, which is about 400 yards. So what the bees will do after they've watched the dance is they'll head out, look for the sun, go 45 degrees to the left of the sun, then they'll fly 400 yards and start looking around for a food source.
It's hard to count those waggles, though. I'd have to be a bee to do that.
Hey, you mean you didn't get stung?
No way.
Friend to all who creep and crawl.
I'm getting better. Hey.
Hey.
You know how moths communicate?
Moths?
She does. Their noses.
This is a moth, considered by many to be beautiful and to others a pest. Majestic in flight, it has an unusual means of communicating with other moths.
Hello, Harry. What's the point spread in a gerbil's hamster game?
Ah, no, they don't use telephones.
Dear Moth of the Month Club, the check is in the mail.
And they don't use written communication. They do use pheromones.
They do?
Yes, you do. Pheromones are chemicals that are sensed by smell or taste.
You mean?
Yes, you stink.
I hope I haven't offended you.
Pheromones are often used by female moths to attract males.
I think you're bluffing, but I ain't got any money left.
That is why you often see male moths flying into the wind in search of the source.
I was just a poor old dub when I joined this lousy poker club, and I quit.
Because the pheromone is so attractive, chemists have learned to make it artificially and use this phony scent as an insect control.
Hey, Harry, aren't you coming with us?
Not tonight, Frank. I got a headache.
Just a tiny amount of moth pheromone, for example, is capable of attracting 1 trillion males. By using it in traps, farmers are able to keep down pest infestation without injuring the environment, as many chemicals do.
Let me out of here, Warden! I'm innocent, I tell you!
Pheromones do amazing things throughout the animal world. In fact, experiments are underway right now to find out whether pheromones exist in human beings. We're not sure yet, but I'll see you later.
Ooh.
Deaf people, bees, moths. So you figure you can get through to just about anybody.
Right. Right.
Or anything.
Even a computer.
I am a computer at Bell Laboratories, and I am learning to talk.
Whoa. How'd you get that to work? I don't understand it.
Well, maybe we shouldn't start with the machine. Maybe we should start with us and how do we talk?
All right. I never even think about how we talk. Go ahead.
Well, if you had a word to say, like hello, and you didn't know how to pronounce it in the first place, where would be the first place you'd go?
Dictionary.
Well, that's what we do.
We have a copy of this dictionary, Webster's 7th New Collegiate, that's stored out on a disc pack. And in fact, this is what a disc pack looks like.
You mean you've got the entire dictionary stored on one of these?
Exactly, and stored in a form that the computer can read, as opposed to this form, which a human can read.
So next, if you found out how to pronounce it, you'd move your mouth to say it, right? If you think about a really simple word like hello, what happens when you say that? What moves?
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Oh. Hello. Now, how did you get the machine to do that?
Well, you have to be able to describe everything that goes on that we've just talked about to the computer in a language that it understands. So we represent everything in numbers, which supposedly works in exactly the same way that a human's does.
You mean you've mathematically computed how your vocal cords work, or your mouth and your tongue and the air into making voice patterns with a computer?
That's exactly right.
I still don't understand it.
Like what? Well, this is a side view of the human face where the chin is here, the mouth, the nose. And you can sort of see the lips rounding here, the teeth.
Where's the tongue?
Well, this thing right here is the tongue.
That part right there is the tongue?
Yeah, the whole thing is the tongue. If you think about it, there's a lot more in your mouth than,
I always thought that.
That's just the tongue tip. That's just the end. What about all the other stuff inside?
Children at Bell Laboratories, and I am learning to talk.
Lot more complicated.
Let's put in a word, have it say it, and see what happens when it talks.
All right.
So we'll try the word hello. I'll type it on the typewriter. And then it'll go and look up the pronunciation in the dictionary. And then it'll talk.
Hello. Hello.
Now you can see all the things we talked about.
Yeah, the tongue was moving. The mouth came together.
Tongue touches the top of the mouth there. The mouth opens and closes.
Hello. 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 Hello.
That's fantastic.
Hello.
Okay.
Can I type something in?
Yeah.
What do I have
You
to do
just
first?
type it in regular English spelling, as you would type it on a typewriter.
My name is Mark. My name is Mark.
Doesn't sound like me exactly.
It doesn't sound like you, but at least it said what you typed in. And hopefully what's happening here is exactly what would happen in your mouth if you said the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Tell me something. How do you feel about talking to a computer?
You do have a tendency, especially with this computer, that you do listen to all the time, to regard it as your friend as well as a computer, which I don't know is good or bad, but it happens all the same.
So you never have a chance to get lonely and wish there was somebody you could throw your coffee cup at or something like that?
No, no. And one tries hard not to throw the coffee cup at the computer because all the circuits would blow.
Hi, Mark. It was nice talking to you today.
As everyone knows, early communications began with early man. It took many forms.
Hello, this is General Custer. Is your wife home?
It's for you.
Priscilla, have you seen my scalp?
I don't like the sound of those drums.
Hey, man, that's not their regular drummer, you know what I mean? And as communications became more complicated,
I think you misspelled pyramid.
hieroglyphics worked, and eventually the picture symbols developed into our alphabet. This was a more accurate form of communication, and with the invention of paper, mail was much lighter to deliver. The Pony Express helped carry messages across the country. It was like our present-day post office, only faster. But with the invention of the telegraph, the Pony Express was out of business.
Sir, Mr. Roth had to cancel his appointment. He's ill.
Oh, quickly, send this message. What hath Roth got?
And soon the telegraph was supplemented by the telephone.
You don't say. You don't say. You don't say.
Who was it?
He didn't say.
And coming right on the heels of the telephone was another kind of communication.
And what did you say you called this thing, Mr. Marconi?
I call it radio.
Well, how does it work?
You just can't buy a better deodorant soap than Diet.
And before too long, man learned to put pictures with his radio, and suddenly we had television.
Here's Johnny.
And if I am elected, I promise not only to put a chicken in every pot, and furthermore, I'll increase decreases.
And as the future draws nigh, who knows what marvelous new means of communication will be coming our way.
If I am elected, I promise each and every one of you that I will do the...
Wait a minute. Who were you talking to?
The computer.
I didn't say what. Now, I said who. Who was talking to you?
Nobody, really.
So were you communicating?
I was trying.
Well, so was I. Out in the desert. Know something? Sometimes you gotta keep trying to communicate, even if you don't know who with.
Space scientists have built big radio telescopes right into the Earth to pick up signals from outer space. This huge disk is really an antenna to catch signals, which is sort of how my radio works, but it's not like any telescope I ever saw. May I ask you something?
Sure. Go ahead.
I know this doesn't really look like the telescopes that I use in school and
Right.
stuff. How is this a telescope and how is it used?
Well, we work with radio waves instead of light waves, of which you're more familiar with. Human beings can, of course, detect radio waves. We need an instrument like a radio receiver. It's like having a large mirror for a regular telescope. We have a very large reflector for our telescope. And from this point in Puerto Rico, we have a very nice view of the sky directly above us, the universe that passes overhead, which includes most of all the planets and the sun and the moon.
true that they sent a message into outer space once?
That's right. In November of 1974, we transmitted a coded signal from here to M13, which is a globular cluster of stars near our Milky Way.
What was said in the message? Like, I mean, what would you send out there to someone? I mean, if there is someone out there.
Well, the first thing that had to be decided was how were you going to send a message so that someone else who you don't even know how they speak or think or what they look like could translate it. And it was determined that the common language of anybody in space that could receive our signal would be mathematics. So they sent a mathematical signal.
Why did they send such a complicated message? I mean, why didn't they just send one that said, "Hi, here's a message from Earth. We'd like to hear from you"?
How are you going to say that?
Oh.
You can't do that. The only thing that we have in common with any other beings, like I said, one is mathematics, and the other thing is going to be chemistry.
How long would the message that was sent from here take to get to what did you
13.
say? M13.
Yeah. M13 is going to take about 24,000 years just to get there.
Communication.
Do you think they're really out there?
Maybe.
But, I mean, do you think we could ever, like, communicate with them?
Well, why not them with us?
Because there's all that space out there. I mean, vast. Loster than lost. No way. Besides, why would they want to bother?
Because I know just how they feel.
Whenever there's trouble, we're there on the double. We're the Bloodhound Gang. If you've got the crime, we've got the time. We're the Bloodhound Gang.
Be sure to watch next time when 321 Contact brings you the exciting adventures of the Bloodhound Gang.
321 Contact is a production of the Children's Television Workshop.